Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Amita Malhotra Lalwani, and I'm the founder of Equalsportz, a space that my husband Rajesh and I found ourselves searching for as sports parents. When I was about 7 months pregnant, Rajesh decided he finally wanted to learn horse riding, something he wanted to do since he was a child. So he went to visit a riding facility here in Delhi NCR, and right next to it was a golf course. Now, given the pregnancy, the horse riding suddenly seemed like a risky proposition, so he decided to sign up for golf lessons instead. Over the next few weeks and months, and our daughter was born by that time, he saw two young golfers, an 8-year-old girl hitting beautiful drives, and a 15-year-old who was home from US on a golf scholarship. I remember one evening, Rajesh came back home very excited, and in a somewhat Bollywood parent style, he made a grand declaration, "Hamari beti golf khelegi." And with this started our own journey, which many of the parents sitting in this room would already understand very well. Where can she play? How do we find the right coach? Choosing the right equipment, decisions around tournaments, and making sure it can all still be joyful. We had so many questions, and yet, in this age of information overload, there were surprisingly few clear answers available. Equalsportz is our step to find, share, and aggregate some of these answers and figure ways to solve the biggest challenges that face the next generation of Indian athletes. So why are we here today? But before I get into that, I do want to ask a question. Which, according to all of you, is the most competitive species on Earth? If you've spent time around junior sports, you should already know the answer. Parents. And within that, this very enthusiastic subspecies called sports parents, where the competition can begin in the parking lot and carry on into the stands. Of course, it all comes from a good place. We love our children and we really want them to succeed. On the field, the sport demands competition. But by competing outside the field, we lose out on collective wisdom, and every athlete family ends up reinventing the same path. There's so much we can learn from each other's journey and from those of athletes, coaches, experts, and parents who have walked before us the same path for longer, instead of quietly struggling through the same challenges alone. We want to address the realities that shape young athletes, balancing not just sport and studies, but also managing financial pressures, bridging coaching and information gaps, understanding the mental and emotional side of the game, and making long-term development and career decisions. And this is why we are here today with the first edition of Raising an Athlete Talk series. None of this would have been possible without the support of India Habitat Center. I'd like to thank Mr. Sandeep Tandon and the entire programs team at India Habitat Center. Thank you so much for making this happen. We're really grateful. Our topic today is keeping our girls in sports. Our girls, like you know, are winning and leading on the world stage. From global podium finishes to emerging professional leagues, women's sport is more visible and viable than ever before. And yet, across the world, and very visibly in India, often girls leave organized sport in their early teens, between 12 to 16 years, at a stage when skill and confidence is still forming. When girls do stay in sport, they don't just get fitter, they build leadership, confidence, and life skills that shape who they become in the sporting arena. In today's discussion, we will explore both the barriers as well as the breakthroughs, the realities of women's sports, and what parents, coaches, and the ecosystem can do differently to ensure more girls don't just start, but stay focused and succeed. We have an incredible lineup of speakers to discuss this topic, and I'll very quickly introduce them all. It is an honor to introduce Ms. Champika Sayal. Champika ma'am. And I was just speaking with Champika ma'am, and I was telling her that I knew this earlier, but as I read more about her, I realized she's not an individual, she's an institution by herself. She's a true pioneer of women's golf in India. As the Secretary General and founder of Women's Golf Association of India, she launched the Hero Women's Indian Open, now a premier event on the Ladies European Tour. And I cannot begin emphasizing the importance of that because there was no talent pathway and there was no route for so many of the players to have an opportunity, and she created that. She's mentored over 100 professionals. She's the longest standing chairperson of National Amateur Golf and has played the sport for more than 5 decades. Last month, she was inducted into the PGTI Hall of Fame. And for me personally, it is her deep commitment to values and integrity of the sport that is most inspiring. Thank you, ma'am. Integrity is a word that also stays very top of mind whenever I think about our next panelist. I'm really honored to have with us one of India's most respected sports communication professionals, G. Rajaraman, who has also been a mentor. Who has also been a mentor in our journey with Equalsportz. Mr. G. Rajaraman, or Raj as many of us know him, brings over 4 decades of experience in sports journalism across print, television, and digital media. He served as the press attaché for the Indian contingent at both the Paris 2024 Olympics and the Hangzhou 2022 Asian Games. He's also the author of Match Fixing: The Enemy Within. What I deeply admire about Raj is his moral courage to examine systemic issues in Indian sport, and yet, Raj, how you stay so deeply optimistic about its future. Our next speaker is Dr. Nanaki Chadha, who's been also an early member of the Equalsportz journey. She was my second guest on Raising an Athlete podcast, and she conducted our very first workshop on sports psychology for parents. I'm hopeful we'll do many more in the series. I think we parents need more of that psychology than I think many of the athletes do. Nanaki is an internationally chartered sport and performance psychologist and a former national level golfer who spent over a decade representing the Indian Golf Union. She's worked with organizations such as TASS, NRAI, and Olympic Gold Quest to help athletes build resilient high-performance mindsets. What I admire most about her, and I was just sharing with her, is the trust and respect that she commands. And she's consistently one of the most recommended experts by both sport parents and her own peer group. So I think that is really commendable. I'm excited to welcome someone whose journey and passion as a sports parent really resonated with me. Ravi Shingari. So Ravi is a chartered accountant and lawyer with over 2 decades of experience in global consulting, including 17 years at KPMG. He currently serves as VP Global Accounts, Tax and Budgeting at Apollo Tyres. He's also the father of 2 national level swimmers. His wife and he have set up an elite competitive swimming academy in Gurgaon and Bahadurgarh. And I think the first question that I was asking Ravi when we were speaking is that we struggle with one, and he is balancing these multiple identities of a corporate leader, a committed sports parent, and building academies to bring access to high quality swimming in Delhi NCR. Please do give a round of applause to him. And finally, I'm delighted to welcome Mahreen Bhatia. She's one of India's most promising junior golfers who's already making a mark at the highest levels of sport. In 2025, she achieved a remarkable milestone by winning a professional event on the Women's Golf Pro Tour of India as an amateur, finishing an exceptional 12 under par against seasoned international professionals. What I find especially remarkable about Mahreen, she is 17, in grade 12, is not just her talent and achievements, but also her dedication. I think she's had a long day playing her practice round today at DLF Golf Club. She has a tournament starting day after. And she's in the middle of her 12th grade exams, but here she is smiling and ready to share her story with us. So thank you, Mahreen, and thank you to each of you for joining us today. So, I do know that you're all excited to listen to their incredible perspectives, and we'll start the evening by inviting each of them to share their opening thoughts before we start the discussion. So I'd welcome Champika ma'am to share the journey of women's golf in India and her perspective on keeping the girls in sports.
Management of Equalsportz, my fellow panelists, Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me here this evening, Amita and everybody else. Nice to see a nice lot of people in the audience here. So, yes, I must say that today this topic is very close to my heart because girls and sports are very, very important for the country, very important for all of us. So, many years ago, when I had the vision to start women's professional golf as a career option, I proposed a motto, and the motto was integrity, discipline, and success. Now, these three words, values, these three value define sports at its very best. Okay, they define a journey of every young girl who chooses sport as a part of life. I remember a note that a dear friend sent to me when we tried to build a stronger structure for women's golf in 2006, 2007. Let me also just tell you all that before that time, it was a very, very difficult task. There was a very rocky path that we were trying to climb. There was a lot of humiliation, a lot of humiliation for women to be professional golfers. It was almost something that many people didn't want to see happen. So I will say that. I'll say that very clearly. The note my friend sent, and this is because we didn't have an office. There was a long time that as the chairperson of Women's National Golf, I operated out of a dicky of a car, the boot of a car. And this was as recent as 1999, 2000, that's not very long back. But this is how we were running women's golf out of a car dicky. So my dear friend wrote a note to me and said, "Look, Champika, you're trying very hard, but do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where no path leads and leave a trail." That message stayed with me, ladies and gentlemen, because women in sport very often have to do just that. They have to go towards nowhere but leave a trail of what they achieve, and that's fantastic. There is no shortcut in life over there. I think personally it is very, very important for girls to remain in sport, not as a hobby alone, but also definitely as a serious and a viable career. Across India, women have excelled in cricket, hockey, athletics, shooting, wrestling, racket sports, and I think now with the emergence of league sports, leagues, kabaddi, and the various leagues that they have, it's becoming very fast a sustainable uh, platform, and and professionalism to take it up as a career should be something which is encouraged to all young girls. For me personally, golf has been my life skill and my passion. Although I never had an opportunity to build a professional career, that experience actually inspired me to ensure that the next generation of young girls should definitely not suffer the way that I did. I should have really been a professional golfer when I was young, but it just wasn't there. So in those days, I must tell you, in 1981, I got married. I was playing national level golf, and it was very strange. But I went to play in at the Royal Calcutta Golf Club. I was practicing there because the nationals in 1982 were being held there. Strangely, as a young bride of 23, when I went to the Royal Calcutta Golf Club, I saw a signage in the what they call the Shamiana. It said, "For men only." So, and this is a real life thing. For and I was practicing for our nationals, which was in Feb of '82. So two Saturdays, the men were very kind. They took a table out and they made me sit in the garden with my 4 ball. The third Saturday, it started raining. So very kindly, one of the captain and the president of the club decided that they will remove that signage saying men only. After that, there's been no looking back. I mean, we've come from a generation. You'll be surprised to know that when I was growing up, Mahreen, this is for you to carry forward. I used to play the nationals against women wearing saris. Can you believe it? They used to play golf in saris. And Bombay, Gujarati women actually wore crisp white saris. They had golf shoes on, and they used to have a Sida Palla. And I was, 17 years old, and I was looking at these ladies. I said, why did I take up this sport? Am I going to see this for the rest of my life? But okay, I decided, no, we have to change things. And, the way they played in saris is something which I just was completely mesmerized by it. Can you imagine any of you women playing golf in saris? Can you imagine it? Anyway. So, at the age of 6, my late father, he recognized my swimming talent. I was 6 years old. He was very proud that I was one of 4 siblings, and he, used to make me swim in a 50-meter pool at the age of 6. So he saw my talent. Because of swimming, I, started playing. I did very well in swimming, of course, but at that time we had state level table tennis, state level, I'm sure some of the older people sitting in the audience can understand from where I'm coming. Uh, so I managed to play some table tennis, and I played. I was a decent athlete, so to say. So golf came in 1972 when I was not yet 14 on a golf holiday in Gulmohar. Gulmohar was the place where people from India, especially North India, played golf. You know, so I used to watch all these older people playing, and no coaches, nothing. And we had a very interesting time, and we used to look for golf balls in the waters, in the streams. There was nothing available. We hardly had no clubs. My parents were very fortunate. They had a overseas posting, so they gave my brother and me half a golf set each. So we came a long way from there. In 1981, when I went to play in Japan, first time I was no, it was the third or fourth time that we played internationally, but Japan was special. It's the Asian level team championship. We actually went with cut golf balls, and we had golf bags. They were tied with ropes, beta. We had no back covers. We had nothing. We ended up going there without any gear. Typical of those days, where customs used to check every golf set that came into the country. Every golf ball was counted. Our clubs were counted. So these were some of the things that we had to go through as young teenagers, exactly Maureen's age. Now we have come a long way, and I must say that all these young girls have really made us very proud, because from the time we started the Women's Golf Association of India, not only have we had good players, we've had girls represent us in the Olympics, which was a distant dream. We couldn't even imagine that girls will go to the Olympics for golf. We've had the Women's Golf Association of India. We've had given an opportunity to many of our girls to become international referees. Many of them have taken up refereeing as a career, both at the ladies European tour level as well as in India. So what is very important now is to grow the golf industry, and I think that's why the Women's Golf Association is not an LPGA, because we are an NGO and we are not for profit. And this has been a very important decision that we took. That look, We're not going to commercialize it to an extent. We're going to be there for our players, give them alternative careers, and help them to grow once they leave, the playing, because the sport is injury prone. There's been a high attrition rate. Girls get married and things like that. So on that, looking ahead, I have no doubt, absolutely no doubt, that girls and women must be in sport. They, there's plenty of opportunity coming for them. And we are going to be proud as we grow, older, to see the legacy. They'll be all beneficiaries of this. Nanaki was a young golfer. Mahreen is yet another generation. So I think everywhere worldwide, it's very important. And I must say that one very important thing that's happened in the Women's Golf Association is most of our players are homegrown. They have studied here. There are girls who, like Mahreen, doing her class 12 examination. We've had girls who have topped the engineering exams after the weekend of playing in Panchkula. I remember that very clearly. A girl called Nalini Singh Siwach. She topped. Shruti Khanna topped. All these national players, their level of concentration is so high playing a sport that they've all excelled in their education. So on that happy note, I would say that when girls get into sport, not only are they building up their own career, but they are an asset to our national pride. And I think that's very, very important. So we must give them the confidence and the encouragement to continue this hard work and follow this path. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, ma'am. I think that context is so important because so many things that we take for granted. One instance that comes to mind is there was a player coming on television, and my daughter says, I know her, I've seen her play, and it's a privilege that's been created. We have international players now coming and competing in India, and that long context gives us that it's not something that one takes for granted. Thanks so much for sharing that. Next, I now welcome Raj to share how he has seen women's sports evolve in India and his view to encourage girls.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, thank you for being here. It tells us how you think of the subject and how important it is, especially to grandparents. Thank you so much for supporting your grandkids. Not just about sport parenting, it's also about sport grandparenting. So thank you very much, sir and ma'am, for being here today. Let's continue with golf for just a moment. I think there's one girl who made all of us awaken very early in the day, back in the year 2021, and she had all of India up and watching golf. I'm talking about Aditi Ashok. She was competing for a medal in the Olympic Games. Unthinkable some years ago, maybe, but to have a girl play there, in fact, there were two of them. Diksha went as well, but Aditi was playing fabulously well, and she had all of us up. And I think that's the change that I have seen. Here's one girl who can get all of India to wake up early and watch sport and watch it with passion. Most of us don't understand golf, but she made us get up very early in the day and follow her 18 holes. Unfortunate, she missed out by maybe a stroke or two. She finished fourth. But a great effort that Aditi put in. I was very privileged to watch her play the Asian Games in just a couple of years after that. She could have won gold. Unfortunately, she missed out there and picked up silver. But to me, that's what the power of a girl in making all of us get up early and watch sport. I don't think very many men can achieve that. All of us have been flooded with WhatsApp messages from last night. I'm sure you know what I'm referring to. It was the Women's Day yesterday, and the men's team won a World Cup. And somebody reminded me that on the Men's Day, a couple of years ago, the men's team lost the final. So that hits you hard, doesn't it? Let me focus on the subject now. Let her play. Very, very important for all of us to reflect and share what we kind of believe. There is no right or wrong, and I'm happy to take a few questions later. But I think we should not say let her play, we should say let them play. We should include the boys as well, because the attrition rate is very high among boys as well. When Amita and Rajesh posted a LinkedIn post about the event today, somebody from Europe wrote back to you saying that 64% of Indians don't play sport. 64%, right? And the remaining are running on track. Maybe they're running on the road. They're exercising. They're not playing competitive sport. So when you look at the overall percentage of Indians playing competitive sport, it's probably 1% or 2. And if we can get our children to play sport, we will have succeeded. Not just the girls. Of course, we must make an attempt to get more girls play sport, but I think we should get more of our children to play sport. And that can happen if we make a concerted effort. We shouldn't just come here and go back with a few learnings. We should go and tell people to play sport, tell stories of how important it is to play sport, so that India remains a healthy country, not just become a sporting nation, but also becomes a very healthy country. We should examine some reasons. Everybody knows, but I've put together a few thoughts on why girls leave playing sport at a certain age. I used to think, back in the 80s, I used to think that women would get married and stop playing sport. But then P.T. Usha and a whole lot of others proved me wrong. We don't celebrate our athletes enough. Now, of course, we go overboard. If you win a medal for the country, not only the national leaders, but also the state leaders and the district leaders, and everybody wants a little bit of the spotlight. They want to, what I call, reflected glory. But I think it's important to celebrate competitors. If we can instill the values of friendship, respect, and excellence, these are the Olympic values. If we can instill this in our children, we will ensure that many of them don't go out of sport. What are some reasons? Mahreen, you can close your ears, okay? We suddenly discover, after turning 18 or 19 or 20, we discover that there are people who are playing the game at a slightly higher level, and we are not matching up to them. So we say, okay, padhne chale jao, let's go to get educated, let's find a career, maybe modeling, maybe films, maybe whatever, right? We should not be afraid of competing. And we know if we are good, if we keep persevering, we will beat our seniors. We should not shy away from competition. Sometimes parents struggle, and I think that will be the key focus, Amita. They find it hard because they put in so much money into the early training of an athlete. And the coach is able to take an athlete up to a certain level. And we don't have a coach who can take them higher. And the same coach wants to kind of retain that player. So the evolution of that player doesn't happen as much as it can. I'm sure some of you can have experienced it firsthand. I have seen it from very close quarters. Coaches refuse to let go of their wards. If they are good, the athlete rises, let's say, to about 70% of potential, and the coach is dragging that athlete down to 75 at best. You need coaches who let go of their children, like we do in school. Teacher taught me ABCD, my alphabet. Somebody else taught me how to write sentences. Somebody else taught me grammar. And by the time I did my graduation, there was a lecturer there who was teaching me English, right? All of them are teachers, and I respect everybody. But my kindergarten teacher, if he or she stuck with me, I would never have been able to stand here and have this conversation with you. I think it's important for coaches to realize that their children, that their wards, that their trainees can grow faster if they let them go after a certain stage. And parents find it difficult because they don't have the resources. I won't say we are a divided nation with the haves and the have-nots. I've seen parents of young badminton players call me up and say, our 10,000 rupees is stuck with the Sports Authority of India. This is the Khelo India scholarship. All athletes who are selected as Khelo India athletes are assured of 6.28 lakh rupees annually. Not very many people know that. There are no golfers. among the Khelo India athletes, right? There are no golfers. This badminton player's parents, both the dentists, and they would call me and say, this quarter's money hasn't come. Can you ensure that you please? These are dentists. These are people who have the money, but for them, 10,000 rupees a month also is a very significant amount. And more than that, staying within that Khelo India scheme is important for everybody. And I think we sometimes treat the athletes with disdain and let go of them. I'll come to that in just a bit. Some of the children use sport as a passport to American schools or to find jobs in India. And I'm not talking about golfers, I'm not talking about tennis players. Every athlete, the first thing that an athlete wants is some kind of financial security. How long will I keep depending on my parents to support me? Can we find an alternative? So they pick up scholarships with ONGC or with Indian Oil or with Railways for 75,000 rupees a month or 60,000 rupees a month, and they stop studying. I think this is one of India's biggest mistakes. We don't let our children continue education. We need athletes who understand the dynamics of sport, the biomechanics of the human body. We need athletes who understand all of this, and we will find spectacular results. I'm digressing just that little bit. Neeraj Chopra, India's greatest athlete living today, with due respect to Virat Kohli and Surya Kumar Yadav and everybody else, Neeraj understands his own body like nobody else does because he understands the biomechanics of the body. Now, one other reason why people want to give up sport is you're up against seniors and lack belief that you can beat them. And finally, the transition, this is what I was saying, the transition from junior to senior, people find it tough. And that is when you need to support your child in getting better. And unfortunately, life experience sometimes has not been the best. We've heard cases of molestation, of harassment. And if India can ensure a safer place for our girls, for our young boys to play, and I know some of the boys have been violated as well. I can't write about it because I don't have enough proof, but some of the boys have been violated by administrators, not sports administrators, but by people who are running organizations. Very unfortunate part. If India can get its act right, I think we will become a good sporting nation. But do girls have less opportunities to play? I don't think that is right. That's a right argument at the moment, because more and more girls are getting to play more, and the government is doing its bit with something called the Asmita League. I don't know how many of you have heard of the Asmita League. It's a girls-only competition, a women-only competition, and there is prize money as well. But they have done only about 13 or 14 disciplines, and if all of us can put pressure on government to include a lot of other sport, including tennis and golf and many other sports where India has won medals, including taekwondo, wushu, I think we will have done our bit. There are more points that I've written, but I will take your leave at the moment and just get you to think that how can we get our little children to play a little bit more than they're doing at this point of time? How is it that we can find the funds to ensure that their sporting journey continues uninterrupted? I think that is the challenge before all of us, and I'm sure we put our heads together, we will find solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj, for highlighting all the systemic issues that come within the sport. And also, I think something that you said, I met a badminton parent who once spoke about this, that, the rich, they have access to funds, the poor, they have access to scholarships or opportunities from the government, but people think that we have all the money because, let's say, I'm a doctor or a dentist. But when I have two kids and I'm, getting them to play badminton at a high level, it's not easy for me. So I think funding for parents across, the strata is a challenge. So thanks for sharing that. I'd like to now welcome Nanaki to share, her journey as well as, the mental aspect of the game.
Good evening, everyone. And before I begin, I would like to thank Equalsportz for having me here. So when we really talk about let's keep girls in sports, I think what we are really talking about here is two parallel stories. So the first one is, of course, about the barriers and the challenges that girls tend to face. So it can be societal expectations, it can be fluctuation in confidence as adolescents. Of course, academic pressure we have body image issues, and we also have environments that are not really safe or supported for athletes. But on the other side, of course, there is, of course, a lot of changes happening that is reshaping sports for women. There is greater visibility, there is more participation, we've got stronger role models now. And of course, the conversation is also moving more towards creating safer spaces and not just on the technical and the tactical aspect. But I would say, as a sports psychologist, my main focus, what I particularly would want to focus is on how these athletes, what goes on in their minds when they're actually navigating through these two realities. Amita also mentioned, and there's enough research that shows that by the age of 14 and 16, a lot of girls drop out. The percentage of girls dropping out is double to that of boys. And why that's happening? Not because of lack of skill set or ability. It's not like girls do not have the skill set, but it's mostly due to reduction in confidence, puberty. So when puberty hits, the way girls view their body changes as well. There are a lot of psychological changes also happening. So a body that they viewed as an agency of performance, pushing through, gets scrutinized, gets judged, gets criticized, and social comparison. So as soon as we start comparing, what happens? The athletes actually start questioning their identity, and of course, academic pressure. So when a girl starts questioning her identity, am I an athlete? Am I a student? Where do I really stand in today's day and age? And we see the confidence that was built over time by just participation and play tends to become really, really fragile. And this I'm talking from a broader lens. Let's bring it to more of an Indian context. Now, when we bring this into the Indian context, there are multiple layers. We should not forget that we have athletes from different socio-cultural, economic backgrounds as well. uh, some girls might already be navigating or finding it challenging to live up to parental expectations, financial constraints, opportunities. Do these girls from difficult backgrounds, what opportunities are they getting? Some might be first generation competitors. So, in that case, do they really get the support from their family, from their peers, from the system to really navigate through the ups and downs of what sport really brings to them? And what happens to girls at that point in time? What is the psychological role that really plays on? How does that impact their confidence? So the confidence starts to tremble. Now, either the fallout rate increases, or if girls really push and stay, that's where something really powerful shifts. And we do have examples of that. We have Mary Com. We also have, if we take uh, PV Sindhu, we have Mirabai Chanu, who competed in the 2016 Olympics and wasn't really happy with her performance. And she spoke about how that really took a psychological toll on her. But then we saw her really go back, regain her confidence, follow the process, and actually, I think, so if I'm right, she won a silver in the Tokyo. So that these stories, what do they tell us? They go take us beyond the technical, tactical aspect, and they say how mental toughness can really push through. We have PV Sindhu, of course, competing at the global level, where, of course, there's constant scrutiny, there are a lot of expectations. Now, looking at the current situation, what's happening with the war, if you all are aware, she was stuck in Dubai, and because of that, she had to miss her All England, for which she really, really practiced really hard. Now, for athletes, it's not just the performance pressure. It's also we are living, their sporting world becomes more and more complex because these situations have nothing to do with sport, but the uncertainty of life. So why I'm telling you these stories is that they become a ground for really where psychological growth can happen. And where can psychological growth happen? Where girls feel supported, safe. Of course, there is a high case of abuse. So, can we create those psychological safe spaces for our girls? And that starts from parents, coaches, and also the sporting system. So, what do we really do? Because I would say the goal is not for us to create champions. I don't think that should be the sole aim. I think we need to create psychologically safe spaces so that the girls stay in sport for a longer period of time and actually explore and discover their skill set. And by creating these environments, it's not only participation, but then these girls grow up to be women who are competing, who can handle pressure and have self belief on and off the ground. So I feel we have to look at a bigger picture and not just from a medal or a result oriented purpose, but how can these girls, through sports and participation, go out there and deal with the daily challenges as well. Thank you.
Why is Michael Phelps the most decorated athlete? It's a very interesting fact which a lot of us probably may not consciously realize. And what I'm going to try and do is convert some golfers to swimming at the end of this session. But swimming is one sport where, unlike many other sports, where you don't have any limit on the number of events you can do in. There are 4 different strokes. There are multiple distances in the strokes. You can choose as many events as you want out of 17 events. So which means the probability of number of medals in an international competition is the highest in swimming. And unfortunately, India doesn't have a single Olympian in swimming. And that's the mission that we are on. That's the objective. That's our mission statement that we have set up or set ourselves up for when we set up an academy, that the first Olympian of this country in swimming should come from Champions Aquatics Academy. And, I'll just take a step back, and also I heard Raj and Nanaki talking, and I could resonate and relate so much to the systemic issues and the psychological challenges that girls go through when they are into competitive sports. And I completely agree with Raj, it is not just about let her play, but let them play, because I think all kids should do one competitive sport if they want to make something out of their life, because books will never teach you what playing a sport can teach you. So when our girls, I'm proud father of two daughters, both of them are national level swimmers. My younger one is currently swimming. She's Mahreen's age. She's 17 and she's a national medalist, Khelo India, and a lot of other competitions. And when they started training, my younger one was 6 years old and the older one was 9. And we stepped out to find a training center, and we went to the first academy we found. And within a week, my girls said that they don't want to train. And this was something Nanki and we were discussing when we came in, is that they saw girls getting beaten while they were getting trained. The coaches will slap them, pull them out of the water, and that scared them so much that they said, we don't want to do the sport. We somehow, kind of convinced that let's just go ahead. Then came their first state competition. It was a disaster. We went to the state competition. There was nobody guiding anybody to what has to be done. Older kids are competing in the younger age group, massive age frauds, and we are standing and trying to figure our way out as to what do we do. Then came winters. Gurgaon did not have a single heated pool. So we had to travel all the way from Gurgaon to Talkatora to train. And we did that 2 seasons. And then we started wondering, and sorry, I forgot to mention my wife is sitting here, Sonia. She's the one who's really, runs everything, and I say I'm the talker, she's the doer, but that's a good combination to have. So then 2 years we saw that, and we said, should we give this up? Because, it's not for us. Let's let the kids focus on education. And that's when it struck us that if everybody starts thinking like that, then how will sports grow in our country? And that's where the thought came, why don't we set up our own academy? and provide that space and infrastructure to kids who really want to do competitive sports. And God was with us. We found a space, we leased it. We started the first all-weather pool in Gurgaon with a group of 15 young kids. Today, I'm very happy to share that the academy proudly trains over 150 swimmers from the region. And, and what makes me even prouder is that 80% of our swimmers are girls. So, so that's the composition that we have. Uh, and, and then I realized that this is the first problem solved, that we've created an infra. Second problem, the entire administration, the way competitions are managed, how do we kind of ensure that is taken care of? So I took the bold step of getting into the Swimming Association and started working with the Jats of Haryana on how to grow swimming in the state and in the country. But I must say they are very progressive Jats. From the distance we feel that they don't want to, but actually if you go sit next to them, I think the first move has to be done by us to make them feel that we can work together. A lot of times we are the ones who make them feel that we are really the educated class and we don't really want to deal with you guys. But trust me, their vision is equally good, equally strong, and equally far reaching. It's just the matter of communicating. And why can't we make the first moves? And that's what I did. So I went and sat with those guys and said, this is what we should do. We made massive changes in the association. We digitalized the entire association. Today, all the swimmers in Haryana are registered online. That took away the age fraud. Every child is verified at the back end before an ID, and an ID is generated, which is a lifelong ID, which stays with them till they do competitive swimming. All the competitions, the entire ecosystem is within that whole software, where every child, every entry is done online. All competitions are done with the help of technology. So that has taken away all these ambiguities and all the age fraud issues. And today, I can very proudly share that swimmers from Haryana, whenever they go to nationals, they are feared, like in other sports. Haryana is typically known for contact sports, but now you will see in the national stage, all Haryana swimmers, when they go, they either make it to the finals or they win medals. The idea of sharing all this is, as I said, to convince many golfers to join swimming. But I think what the message that I wanted to give was to all parents that it's very easy to give up. But trust me, I mean, if you make that effort, we can make a lot of difference for our kids and provide that arena, provide that platform for them to do better and even get stronger in their sports. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. I think we were very keen to have you also because we do want diverse sports on the panel, and hopefully, we'll have more people coming in the coming months. I think it's also about within our country. Like, for example, badminton is something that is aggregated around Bangalore, Hyderabad. So within Delhi, we're looking for more voices. So it'll be lovely to have more people joining in as well. And finally, I want to welcome Mahreen Bhatia to share her lived experience as a young golfer.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank all of you for being here. It is truly an honor to be a part of this conversation and to share the panel with such distinguished guests. I do want to specify Mrs. Champika Sayal has been such a strong supporter of women's golf in India, and I truly appreciate that. So I want to keep this as short as I can, being the last speaker, and I'm seeing all the timestamps back there. But yeah, so I do want to start with a little bit of an anecdote from my journey as a golfer. So I started playing golf when I was about 7 years old, and it was mainly because my parents insisted that I pick up a sport. Now, golf is not exactly the first sport a 7-year-old child is introduced to. Before golf, I played so many sports: tennis, badminton, basketball, you name it. So clearly, I was still searching for my sport. Then one morning, my best friend Anisha and her grandfather insisted that I join them at the golf course. For me, it was just a small adventure, going to hit a few balls at the DLF Golf and Country Club. In that moment, I had absolutely no idea that a small 45-gram ball would end up shaping such a big part of my life. A couple years later, I started competing in tournaments. I started off small with local events, and then eventually I moved on to the North Zone Feeder Tour. My first feeder event was in Kapurthala in 2019. This was when I was 10 years old, and I still remember that tournament so clearly. On the drive to the course, I was so nervous that I actually started throwing up in the car before we even reached the venue. I was absolutely terrified. But I still remember something that my mom said. She held my hand and she said, Mahreen, just go and play the first hole. And if you still don't feel okay, we can pack up and go home. Just the first hole? Okay, I could do that. I feel like I've never really heard a parent say, just go and play the first hole. So I packed up my golf kit, got out of the car, and went on the first tee. I was still nervous and I was still unsure. I played the first hole, then the second. And yes, you guessed it, then the third. And before I knew it, all 36 holes were done. And somehow I ended up winning my first ever North Zone Feeder Tour event. That experience taught me something very important. In golf and truly in life too, sometimes it just takes the first step, the courage to get the first step done. Even today, I still get nervous on the first tee. My stomach does a little flip. I get butterflies. But now I just take a deep breath, whisper a small prayer, and remind myself it's just the first hole. Balancing school and golf has definitely been a journey of its own. I was in the IB curriculum, which meant long school days, while most tournaments were on weekdays. So sometimes it really felt like I was juggling two full-time jobs, school and golf. But my parents were incredibly supportive. Every summer break, we traveled abroad so that I could compete in tournaments internationally. In 2024, I played 7 back-to-back tournaments in the States, and it was an incredible experience. I won the FCG Callaway World Championship and had top finishes at events such as the US Kids World Championship and the IMG Junior World Championship. But what those tournaments did was open my eyes. Many of the players I competed against were stronger, fitter, had better teams like sports psychologists, coaches, trainers, anything, you name it. And that was a big learning moment for me. I realized that great golf is not just about, okay, so I have some montages from pictures from my journey. This was the European Championship in Scotland. These were the tournaments I played in the States. This was the US Kids World Championship where I finished second runners-up. And I ended up winning the Faldo European Tour as well in 2023. But really, what these tournaments did was teach me about how important fitness, nutrition, and recovery is for all athletes, not just golfers. So today, I spend many hours in the gym because I've learned that building strength and taking care of your body is just as important as any part of your game. Later this year, I'll be heading to the United States to pursue collegiate golf at Georgetown University. As Mr. Shingari mentioned, and as Mrs. Champika mentioned as well, getting that opportunity for funding to play collegiate golf with a scholarship is so important as a factor for growth for athletes. And I truly believe that I'm looking forward to my 4 years of this learning opportunity as a stepping stone, and hopefully going on to tours like LET and the LPGA and making my country proud. And if I could share one message with young girls in sport, it would be this: don't be afraid of the first tee. It's okay to be nervous. Just take the first step and keep playing the next hole. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mahreen. Just incredible to hear about all your international exposure, and we'll be asking you more around that. So we will be beginning with the panel discussion now, and we'll have a little segment for Q&A, so you can plan your questions for that. Champika ma'am, I want to start with you. Yes. So for many years, I think women's golf internationally was dominated by South Korea. I believe at one point they had 30 to 40 LPGA players, players who were playing on LPGA. But I think in the last few years, it's become more diverse, more Asian countries, Thailand, Japan, who've now come into the picture. What have they got right in their ecosystem that we can learn from, that India can learn from, and hopefully have more players on LPGA?
So this is a very important question, Amita. Um, One thing is, having seen the Koreans and the Japanese and the Thai ladies for the last so many decades, there was a time when the Korean ladies were not making their mark, and for 7 or 8 years, they weren't, coming in the top place. So what actually happened in Korea was that the government decided to, take up the cause of women Korean players, particularly in golf, and it became like a industry. So they were given a lot of help from the government. They were given all kinds of fantastic training centers, the best coaches, and not only did Korea, start performing. The Japanese, of course, have had the same kind of. And also, I must say, that in a sport like golf, these countries have been way ahead of India. I'll tell you that, giving one example of China and what they did. China in 1990 had maybe 2 golf courses in one part of Shenzhen and that area of just mainland China. I remember going for the inauguration of the first Arnold Palmer golf course there. Now, in the Queen's Cricket Cup, they came last. They came last in China. The Chinese came last. So they were all made to stand when we arrived in China with their heads down, and they were made to serve us at the evening party. Now, from there, China has grown in some ways more rapidly than South Korea. What is happening, which is very interesting, is that they built over 650 golf courses, or over 600 golf courses. They converted all the wasteland into golf courses. They got the top American coaches. They got the best, playing facilities, coaching facilities for their people. And if you remember correctly, in the Rio Olympics, the Chinese girl, got a medal. So they moved very rapidly. This was one thing. The other thing was that I think, they are very disciplined. The discipline is very, very strong, whether it's the Korean or the, Japanese, or they're very, very, very straight on this, that they want results. When I just heard Nanaki say something about not making champions, but okay, participation, but they have a single point agenda. They want champions, nothing short of that. So the government in Korea, and they have all taken the same model. They just want to build champions. In fact, when the LPGA invited me in 2004, we had just one professional golfer, and this was 2004. And I went there and, I said, look, I would like to follow the Korean model for my country, because they actually started as well with just one player and 2 officials. We were in the same boat. There was one player, Simi Mera, and there was me, and I was just determined to make this happen. So they said, look, don't worry, we'll support you. So when we started, we were still very, it took us a number of years to get going, because unfortunately, our government didn't quite understand what golf was, and it was always projected as an elitist sport. But I'd like to say that, even till today, we are talking about, 40, 30 years later, 25 years later, our players still do not have access to the best equipment unless it is done privately. Their own family supporting them, or, things like that. Even today, I can't for the love of anything understand why golf equipment is charged 28% duty for what? Then you want us to go and get a medal in golf. Our customized golf sets, our golf balls, kit, the kind of duty custom duty is, it's unbelievable. So why can't we get, the playing field? Korea manufactures everything in for their players. They're so beautifully dressed. They've got everything which is coming from within their country. Even in Make in India, I don't know why we don't have a strong accessories of equipment and things like that. There's no reason. So this is one area where I find that stuff is not, our kits, our golf clubs are not available for grassroots levels. It's just not available. And it's made life very tough. Like I said, unless parents have been forthcoming and, family, society, sponsors, they're trying their best. But there's something missing, and that is infrastructure. But on the positive side, recently the IGPL that's collected a lot of money, they have had a commitment of $250 million coming into infrastructure. Now that's, I would say, one of the happiest news that I've heard in the last 5 decades. And I really hope that day is soon and it happens really quickly. As far as import duties on equipment, I think the government has to take a very dynamic view on this. They need to get our players stuff, their kits, their all the equipment at par with other people in the world. I don't know why we have to suffer. So this is one of the drawbacks. It's a real challenge.
So access remains an issue, and I think the government has a role to play. I think the private sector that you're speaking, the leagues that are emerging is also an opportunity. But I suppose as a country, for us, there are these different models that I've spoken about, the Chinese model or the Korean model. Some are like, it almost sounded like a punishing parent where you're humiliated and made to stand and serve. I'm not sure if that is a model that we want, but I think as a country, we also will have to figure out what works for us. Raj, I do want to bring you in and ask you, and you have examined a lot of work that government has done. Any particular states or any particular ecosystems that come in your mind, sporting ecosystems that have done a good job of keeping girls in sport, and what can the rest of the country learn from that?
Amita, I'd like to believe that everybody does a good job because they've got their restrictions. They work within a certain sphere of influence and they do the best they can. Nobody wants to do bad for the country. Nobody wants to do bad for sport. I think the intention is good, but we don't have the bandwidth to follow through with good action. I go back to a time where I played basketball in YMCA in Hyderabad, and I would see fantastic volleyball players next to me, on the court next to me. We had an Arjuna Award winner playing, and she got her Arjuna Award in 1964, Mulini Reddy. And we were playing basketball, but we would feel inspired by seeing a woman of her stature play next on a different sport, but she's playing next on the court next adjacent to us. I think the whole ecosystem has done pretty well. We like to criticize governments, we like to criticize administrators, but I think you go back in time, look at Kamaljit Sandhu. I don't know how many of you have heard of the name Kamaljit Sandhu.
I have.
She was the first gold medal winner for India, a woman gold medal winner for India in the Asian Games, 1970. PT Usha picked up 11 gold medals for us in Asian Games in 86 and 90. She has been fabulous. But we tend to forget them, and as we move forward, we look for new champions, but we don't go back and find those stories to tell people. And when we start telling stories, we introduce some fiction into it, and it sets parents thinking. I take you to Dangal, this movie that Amir Khan produced and acted in. He showed that the father was made to sit in a room and they locked up the room. Now, something like that never happened. But when I'm watching a movie, I tend to believe, oh, aisa hi hota hai Indian sport mein, I will not send my kid to play sport. I think we should change this narrative. We find lots of positives. And if we can bring those positives up, Mahreen is sitting here and she had such a beautiful story. I think the lesson for all of us, those not sitting in the room, is for athletes to tell their stories. They have the platforms now. There is Instagram, there's YouTube, there's you name it. My time, we had to depend on a newspaper. If I scored 25 points in a basketball match, my name would appear in a paper. Today, they can tell their own story that I went and played in UK, I did really well, and people follow you. I think there are stories that need to be told. Sometimes we blame the media because the media doesn't have space for popular sport, national level sport. Joe sitting here does some fabulous work for grassroots level athletes. And he's been asking me for the longest time, can you get me some visibility in the media? I throw my hands up. I said, we don't cover national championships. The best route out for people like Mahreen is to tell their stories. And I think when we start telling beautiful stories, when we start telling lovely stories of success, Nanaki does some fabulous work with athletes. I've been telling her, tell your story. Tell us some positive stories. And she's done a lot of that. We need to find inspiration around us, and then we will stop worrying about which ecosystem has done harm. I think there is a lot that we have done positive.
Or helped also, like when you spoke about PT Usha, and when I read about PT Usha, one of the things that I did not know about her story, because in India I feel like we always talk about them as individuals, but Kerala has, it said, a very strong school athletics system, and she emerged from that. So I feel one of the things I feel that as a country we also do need to talk beyond. The narrative has to change beyond individuals, coming against challenges, against all adversity.
Sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but we find it very romantic, no? With that,
Yes.
a Haryana wrestler, a woman from Haryana has been supported by her parents to go against all society. It sounds beautiful, right? And I sell that story because you're buying it. You start reading more positive stories from around the country. Manu Bakar, she's from a well-to-do family. She's taken up shooting. She became the first Indian woman to win 2 medals in an Olympic Games. We've had multiple medalists, Sushil Kumar and PV Sindhu, but here is this girl who picked up 2 medals in one Olympic Games after having had a disaster in Tokyo. 3 years later, she's picking up 2 medals. But how soon we forget her, right? And we put the pressure on the girl saying you win every single time you go out to play at the international level. There are beautiful stories around us.
Yeah.
We just need to find them. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be competitive athletes. I'm going to take just 1 minute and tell you one story about a woman who ran 5 kilometers on a treadmill in about 45 minutes. Ordinary thing to do, right? But she went and delivered a baby in 3 hours. She ran for 5 kilometers and then she went and delivered a baby. I find that inspirational. I have told this story before. I think we need to find those stories around us and talk about them. We might not set the internet on fire, but if we can get one other parent to get inspired, one other person to start running, talking about saris and golf. Today it's fashionable to run marathons in saris, right? So there are beautiful stories around us. We need to find them.
I mean, definitely something that we believe in the power of inspiration and then the power of stories to actually get many more people to do that. Nanaki, I want to bring you in more from this research that says that female athletes are often very conscientious and very disciplined, but they also tend to be harder on themselves and they're kind of self-critical. They're very resilient in sports. So these are both qualities that the women athletes have. Now, from your experience, are there aspects of female psychology that tend to become strengths that help them, they help female athletes? And are there any patterns that leave them more vulnerable to, let's say, pressure or doubt?
That's a very valid question, and I would say yes, but I wouldn't say of course, where women are concerned, and I would, of course, if we look at the gender, I won't say there's a difference in the mental aspect or the way we think, but I think it's a lot to do with the social conditioning between a female and a male. Also the cultural expectation. So when it comes to specifically women or girls, definitely the sense of what I have seen from my own practice is the sense of perfectionism, of not wanting to make a mistake. And I would say that again comes from Am I audible? So again, that comes from again the environments. I'm not saying the environments are different for male athletes or female athletes, but if we look at just overall in terms of safety, I think women require more safety, emotional support, and the safety around women compared to male athletes. I would say like again, uh, golf being an elite sport, but I've worked with athletes from rural areas, and when it comes to their safety, so of course a lot of the psychological element plays a big role. And why I'm coming to that is because we cannot take the mind in isolation. All our factors around us play into it definitely. So of course, like you said, with women, discipline, dedication, hard work, effort. I think a sense of vulnerability, also being there, being open to talking about their emotions, is way more than I think even boys or men. And I would say again that social conditioning. We often say, okay, if a boy cries, don't be a girl, don't cry like a girl, be strong. So that's from a very young age we are drilling in that if you're crying, you're a weak person. And I've seen kids come to me, male athletes come to me, and as soon as their peers know that, okay, they're going to a sports psychologist, oh, you're going to a sports psychologist, what's wrong with you? Which I do not see where women are concerned. But again, then women are made to kind of say, okay, be perfect, the way you look, the way you dress up, even in sports. Again, body image issues, eating disorders. There's enough research where women are more, girls are more vulnerable to it.
Though if I may say, I think sometimes women can also make vulnerability to be such a strength. Like one instance that really stands out for me, I remember crying watching the women's cricket semi-final when Jemima played that innings that she did against Australia, and just to see her standing tearful over there and saying that, she had played a humongous innings, and she was saying that I have cried through every match of this World Cup and I've faced anxiety every single day. I think just the fact that you can go out there and say that, I think just becoming vulnerable, sharing that, I think sometimes that is also a strength that exists.
Absolutely. And just saying that, I think that again, I would say comes to the environment, right? Why don't more and more athletes talk about mental health? Because it's still somewhere the stigma's attached to it. So I think that as a collective society, we need to change that perspective.
Ravi, I want to bring you in, and one of the things I find very interesting is the why of the sport, and there are so many whys also. Like, why do you even start to play it? That's something I want to ask in context of your own daughters. What was the prompt which made you guys start on the journey of swimming, and where, like, from the point, what were the expectations that you started with, and where are you now? Were there any formal goals that you started with, and where are you with both the girls?
So I think the way we looked at our girls was to let them do what they want to do and just be the enabler. How their swimming journey started was in the society where we used to live, there was a pool. And interestingly, both my wife and I do not know how to swim. So they were very keen that my older one was very excited with water and she wanted to swim. And we were very skeptical that hygiene, water is so many issues. We were just not willing to let them go. So, they forced us. The older one was 6 and the younger one was 3. And we took them to the pool. We said, okay, on one condition that we also will go with you. So because of them, we learned how to swim and we got into the water. And then we forgot about it. 3 years later, the younger one had turned 6, and in her class, they were being asked at who all know how to swim. She raised her hand. We didn't know about this. She was taken for a competition, and she came home with a medal. So we were like, "Arey, ye to Olympic jayegi." We took a decision that day. So that was a start, and we said, now we need to do whatever it takes to help them fulfill that goal. Very interestingly, my older daughter would cry before every competition, and the younger one will look forward to a competition. 2 girls, both girls, same house, everything same, but very different personalities. And that is what we said, we will let them be, rather than trying the older one become like the younger one or vice versa. And when the older one came to her So the younger one, and like every other parent, we would want them to do many activities. So my wife had put them in Kathak, Hindustani vocals, you name it, and they were doing it. And one fine day, a 7-year-old, my younger daughter said that, I only want to swim. I don't want to do anything else. So we removed her from all the other activities. We just followed what she asked. And we let her only swim though. And then when the older one came in the 10th grade, she said, I am not able to handle the competition pressure. I want to focus on academics. Now, we could have very well said, no, you need to, it's okay. We tried counseling her, but then we went by her decision. And today, because of sports, I believe, and she had never been on a stage, never debated, nothing. And both my daughters went to Sri Ram School, Aravali in Gurgaon, and the older one in her 12th, one fine day decided, I want to be the head girl of the school. And she went. So in her 11th grade, she tried for sports secretary. She could not clear the interview round. But somewhere the sports background that she had gone through did not make her sit back. She went and tried I said, now I will not try for secretary, I want to be the head girl. That's the final position. And she became the head girl of the school. So that's what sports did to her. While she quit swimming, but the sports person in her never quit. So I think that's how.
Beautiful. I think it's something that we all sport parents aspire to do, to follow the rhythm and the what our children want. And sometimes we are outpaced and we're walking too fast and they are behind, and sometimes we are too slow to their lead. So I think it's a beautiful point, recognizing every individual for who they are and really following their lead. Mahreen, you feel so far off, I think congratulations to you on Georgetown University. And I think
you.
I want to ask, and this is, do bear with the fact that this is a golf question, that a lot of parents and for the young people also, this choice between turning pro or taking college golf, like how did you think about it, and what was your recruitment journey like? If you could speak a little about that.
Yeah, so pretty early in my career, around 9th, 10th grade, I was pretty sure that I wanted a very balanced lifestyle, and like to call it balanced, but I always wanted to have the opportunity to get an education alongside a sport that I'm so passionate about, and a sport that I've competed in for 10 plus years now. So for me, personally, the decision came after a long thought process, and something that I would ask others to reflect upon is whether they want the journey, which is, I would say it is as tough as turning professional, the journey of studying academically, but also playing a sport, and in my case, golf at the highest level. And I think college golf presents that opportunity to go to the States, and for 4 years under a golf scholarship, and amazing facilities, an amazing coach purview, and like I mentioned in my introduction, facilities for nutrition, sports psychology, getting access to that for 4 years and using that as a very critical stepping stone into a professional journey. I think those 4 years can be beneficial for anyone who wants to take that transition period between junior to senior golf, as it was mentioned before, that transition that a lot of people shy away from. I think something personally I also struggled with, that transition from junior to senior golf, and I think college golf presents as a stepping stone to help that transition, and I think that's something people should consider for sure.
I also loved what you said, that we may think that this is easier. It's no easier because you're balancing multiple imperatives, and yeah, that's something to consider. I think I do want to speak about coaching a bit, and Champika ma'am, coming back to you on this. Now, most successful golf nations have a lot of depth in their coaching ecosystem. They have like these high quality academies and structured coaching pathways. Now, I feel like in India, we probably are headed for a unique problem. There's a lot of these professional leagues that have emerged, but from our own lived experience, we feel that many of the experienced coaches are now increasingly, becoming players, mentors, coaches on these leagues, which kind of leaves a gap at the grassroots or junior development level, because all the coaches then go over there. So, from your perspective, how serious is this coaching gap in Indian golf, and really, how do we solve for this?
Actually, Amita, there is nothing to solve. India is a very big country, and we've got plenty of coaches. We've got plenty of young people in the sport. The leagues is something very interesting, and they're very different formats. As far as coaching is concerned, there's no limit. There are plenty of coaches, whether it's in the western part of India, southern part, eastern, and I'm very proud to say that I don't have any fear that the future is going to be depleted of players or coaches or anything like that, because there are girls coming and boys from different parts of the country where we don't even know from where are they learning. So now I'll tell you something very interesting. There are a lot of young people who are learning through technology. Technology has become one of the greatest teachers of at least for golf. Technology is something which the younger Gen X, Gen Y, they know it, they understand it, and that's one of their biggest coaches. So, and I've seen this for myself now in what they're doing in China, for example, is golf is coming into classrooms. It's coming into classroom as a subject, which is fantastic. And we know, I know companies now in India, there are companies that are taking golf to classrooms as well, to schools. So I think technology is playing a huge role, because what I've seen is now there are coaches in Punjab, for example, in small villages, through technology and through video clips of stuff. There are these young kids from Jindiala and places where you've never even heard of them. I mean, they have access only to a phone, and they are learning all their golf through a this type of a system, which is, I think, something of it's very futuristic. And soon coaches are also going to be, they won't be passe, but it's a physical interaction, and technology is taking over the game. So it's not something to be feared, or it's not negative.
Yeah. I do want to bring Ravi in, because we had an interesting conversation about this. Now, you've set up like an Olympic size pool, and the infrastructure or the hardware is there. How have you thought about coaching? What are the gaps that you saw when you were a parent, and how have you tried to address that through the academies?
See, swimming, as I already mentioned, in our country is not a very popular sport. So therefore, the ecosystem is also lacking in a lot of ways. And when we set this academy up, we realize, and no offense to anybody, but we realize that as people grow older, they tend to get rigid. And coaches today, a lot of senior coaches in our country, swimming coaches, they are in their late 50s, early 60s. To ask them to kind of upgrade themselves and be in line with the modern training methodologies was very, very difficult. So we scouted for a young swimmer who himself was aspiring to be an Olympian and could not, and now has that that mission that I want to make someone else do what I wanted to do. They want to live their dreams through others. And we were lucky to find one such young chap from down south, and we brought him over here. A lot of coaches today, a lot of government, like SAI, Sports Authority of India, will not hire a coach if he is not NIS, right? And to me, NIS is the most outdated coaching methodology. So I was very clear, I don't want an NIS coach. So we found this guy who's non-NIS, young swimmer, willing to learn, and then we put him into an accelerated coaching program where we sent him overseas to attend camps. He underwent a training program in Netherlands, in Eindhoven. It's a very, not many people know of the city, but it's got one of the most advanced training methodologies, and scientists run that club over there. So he was actually learned the biomechanics part of things. And then the whole academy has been, so he is now the head coach. The whole academy has been set up in such a way, there are 8 coaches. And like you, Raj, you were mentioning that it's a classroom setting. So one coach specializes in one stroke, then the child graduates to another batch, and then next and next. And there is an objective way of progressing kids from one batch to another batch. So it's not very like, okay, you spend a month here and then go. You have to pass certain tests to move to the next batch. Then we have 2 international coaches who are on panel, one Japanese who are very good in biomechanics, and then the other South African who's a very good guy in terms of program designing. So they work with us and they visit here once a month. And then of course we have nutritionists, we have other experts. We're using a lot of underwater camera stroke analysis to further improve the technique, etc. And then we send our kids to training camps with international coaches, which are conducted either in the country or outside the country. And so combination of everything through which even our coaches learn when they work with other coaches, they also learn as to what's happening in other part of the world.
Yeah, no, I think thank you for sharing that, and the fact that I feel like in reality, yes, some of the coaching methodologies sometimes are outdated, and I think one needs to call that out, and then find the real, like, the expert help that you can where it is possible. Like in private infrastructure, it is possible. It's not something that you have to be limited by. I do want to open up for the audience because I'm sure you have questions that you want to ask. So just opening up the floor, and please do raise your hand, and a volunteer will come to you.
I'll be very quick, and my question is to Ravi. I have met many parents who could not do something, or their kids wanted to do something, and then they did not find the facilities, infra, as you mentioned, and then they set up on their own. And I saw many success stories as well as failure stories. But how the journey for them, and how has been the journey for you, and what do you think that is this a good approach? Because I'm a father of 10 years old, and my daughter has been in mountaineering a bit. I have never done, but because of her, I'm doing now. I'm keeping it short, so I'll close it here. I just wanted to give you a sense of what I'm saying.
See, it's very important that while we set up the academy with our kids in our mind, but then the vision has to go beyond your own child, because if you start celebrating every single child in the academy, that's the stepping stone of making it grow bigger. And then it's not just about my daughter, it's about every child who's training over there. And see, I think finances are very important, and that's where my background of chartered accountancy came into play. And that's where I ensured that we had support from corporates wherever we were, because you will never have enough funding to do things. I put in my own money as well when we set up the 50-meter pool. Now, for that, you need to be crazy because there's no return coming out of it. So, but then, as I said, luckily we are blessed with a set of extremely good group of parents who are thankfully from very good backgrounds. Most of them are CEOs in their own organizations. Some of them are successful founders. So they all helped us in terms of putting a method behind the madness and raise corporate funding. So every year we are able to raise some bit of funds from corporates that kind of bridge the gap between the shortfall that we have. And second, we have never kept, and ma'am also mentioned, we never kept profit at the center of it. So the moment we took out profit from the objective, the moment we make the vision bigger than our own kids, and the third thing is that you have the right set of people around you, I think nobody can stop you.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, panelists, for this beautiful, insightful conversation. I just want to bring some of my personal insights over here. That one of the biggest impediments as an SNC coach I've found in the sporting culture is that the huge neglect of strength and conditioning and biomechanics, the sports scientific part in the sports, because when you see athletes in the hustle culture, they overtrain. They don't have proper access to programming, periodization, how they should train. And you should look at the statistics, like all should look at the statistics that all the athletes, major athletes, drop out because of the injury issues, and most of them are overtraining injury issues. And like, it pains me when I see skill coaches have this hubris that we know everything and we will train this athlete through our typical NIS model, and not knowing the proper scientific rigorous methods to train an athlete, which is required and which is very sport specific. So like for this question, like Ravi ji or Rajaram ji can come in if you have any insights regarding this.
Could you briefly introduce yourself, please?
I'm Harshit. I'm a strength and conditioning coach.
Always a challenge. I think coaches need to see themselves as, let's say, CEO of an organization. And they need to have strength and conditioning expert, to a chief strength and conditioning expert, a chief nutritionist, a chief psychologist, a chief recovery expert. All of them have to come together and work on the project called the athlete. It's going to take us a little bit time to get to that professional state. In 65 years of NS Patiala, I'm sorry, going back to that, we produced 25,000 diploma holders. These people have studied for 9 months. Now, most of them want to set up their academies, make money and go home. The moment I become NS certified coach, my fee goes up from, let's say, 500 rupees a month to 2,000 rupees a month. The moment I get my academy accredited to Khelo India, my fees goes up to 5,000 rupees a month. And I'm happy making money. I'm not looking to make Olympic champions. I'm not looking to make Asian Game champions. We need to change this mindset, and that demand has to come from parents, from nobody else, right? The parents have to insist on high quality coaching. Parents are willing to pay now. They have those who don't have deep pockets have got friends who assist them. They've got government schemes from where they get the money. It's very important for coaches to understand that you can't be stuck in 1960s coaching or 1970s coaching. Coaching is both art and science. And 9 months of a diploma is not going to make me a good coach. I need to understand a lot more. And today, the government has got 6-week coaching certification programs, and even more shocking at NS, because government also wants to make money. NS also wants to make some money, so they're encouraging people to undertake 6-week coaching programs. So as parents, we just need to be careful. I remember a job interview of mine where the person who was hiring me, the first question he asked me was, "What have you heard about me in the market?" Right? And then he told me what he had heard about me in the market. Now, it's very important for us to ask questions of coaches. Who's your strength and conditioning expert? Who's your nutritionist? Who's the psychologist who's going to help my child in case there is necessity? And who's overseeing everything else, right? So it's important for the ecosystem to start asking questions, and that starts with the parent.
And to ask the right questions, we need to know what those questions are, which is why we are here, and we are, also discovering, because sometimes when you see those labels or those tags, because it's an accreditation, and you, as a parent, you think, well, that is the stamp of authenticity that you're seeing. So I think these conversations also inform us that, those labels may not be enough for us.
One thing I learned, Amita, that no question is a bad question.
Yeah.
Always clear your doubt. When in doubt, check out, right? So parents sometimes hesitate in asking questions. I think it's very important to ask any question that comes to your mind. Obviously, you will do some Google searches. You will try and ask people who have such similar experiences, but please don't hesitate to ask questions.
Just want to add one small point is that I think to everybody who's into sports, SNC is today extremely important for any sport you play. It's not just about intense sport, but even golf. I mean, you went for a gym session in the morning, right? So even while golf is looked at as a sport which doesn't require strength, but a strength and conditioning training is mandatory for any sport you play. I think that's a message to all parents over here.
Yeah.
Could I add a little bit of a perspective from one of the experience that I had, especially with strength and conditioning, as you mentioned, Harshit. So I got injured, and not a lot of people know this, but the first doctor I visited, the first thing he told me was quit golf. This was, I'd say, around 2 years ago, August 17th. I still remember the date. But yeah, that just goes to show how important physiotherapy, SNC, and building a strong body as a foundation for whichever sport that you're playing, just so important, and I can't emphasize enough about how for every athlete coming up, I don't think they should wait to start their process, their fitness journey. I think it's better you start it early before you be in a situation like me where you're getting a major injury and being asked to quit a sport. Luckily for me, I had extremely good physiotherapists, strength and conditioning coaches who got me better within 6 months, and I was back to playing tournaments. And ever since, I've worked out a lot on my overall health, my fitness, my nutrition. And I think that kind of woke me up a little bit. And I think before anybody faces something that happened to me, just keep in mind that it's very important to start it early. So yeah, I just wanted to emphasize on that.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing. I think coming from you, from an athlete, I think that's a very important perspective. I think we could continue longer for this conversation, but I think we've really overstretched the time. So I really do want to thank all the audience who've come for your questions that you've asked, and also our wonderful panelists for making time for the conversation and sharing all your perspectives. Please do give a round of applause for our wonderful panelists.
Thank you all for made the time to come here today. I want to take a minute also and request all the panelists to be here. I wanted to request my friend Piyush, who's come in from Bombay. Piyush is a dear friend of mine, also leads AI transformation now at Reliance, works in the chairperson's office, is executive assistant to Ms. Neeta Ambani. Very important initiative by Reliance, her circle. She's the chief strategy advisor for that. And I could maybe request Piyush if you could just hand over a little memento to our speakers. Can I have the books, please? Thank you. Champika ma'am. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure imagining you in a sari.
One of my dreams. Now they have a dress code in golf.
Raj, please. Thank you. No, that's okay. Please come. No. Thank you so much. Thank you. And of course, Ravi. It may not be a bad idea to have all of you together here for a picture. Maybe all of you. Piyush, please. While they all gather for a quick photograph, I wanted to take a quick minute to say that today is only just the first session that we are gathering here for. The idea is to set up a community where parents have access not just to experts but also other parents. There's so much that we could be learning. And like Mr. Shingari has set up this academy, our little contribution to this movement in some sense has been what Amita is doing with her show and now with these ground meets. And thank you once again. I know there's loads of questions, but please feel free to catch hold of everyone and speak to them directly and ask all the questions. Thank you.